Hi, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Before I get going with this video, I just want to take a moment to thank our friend Trina very much for your donation to our channel's PayPal account. Thank you, Trina. Over and over again, I'm hearing they're getting worse. There is an influx of them. They're not even trying to hide what they are anymore, and I want to talk about that today. I think we've all had the same basic understanding of narcissism, but I do believe this vast global exposure, the blogs, how many books have been written about this subject, how many documentaries have been made. YouTube channels are all talking about it, even if they're not in the narcissistic abuse genre here at YouTube. Everybody's talking about this rise of narcissism and how it is falling out on the world. Everybody's talking about it. Now, with that said, this much exposure has definitely had an impact on empaths. It has created this huge global awakening, but don't be fooled into thinking it's not affecting them too. I believe it's had a profound effect on narcissists and their hive mind, and I do believe that now they're steadily trying to change gears to stay one step ahead of us. But we're here, we're awake, and we're watching, and they won't get away with that. So today I really want to discuss some of the things that were hard, fast facts about narcissism that I do not believe are factual today. First and foremost, the once believed theory that there are more narcissistic men than women. Absolutely not. I believe that women have always been the forerunners in this. I believe they have always been at the root of this evil that we've seen within our society that has diminished the family, has destroyed so many children's lives. Think about how many of us here, just here alone, have said we had narcissistic mothers. I mean, this rampant child abuse that no one ever talks about, that was unseen, no one was ever punished for, but continues and continues on a very large scale. I would speculate that 10 to 1, someone says I had a narcissistic mother versus a narcissistic father. Another fact that society has kind of concealed from us is the fact that women are murderers. We've always been led to believe that there's a tiny little handful, a tiny pocket of women capable of murder. Well, I encourage you to check out a YouTube channel here, and it's called Female Killers. Make your bloody hair stand on end. One after the other. There is no shortage of them, and it's really odd that nobody ever talks about this. We always hear about a man killing someone, but we really don't see the big picture when it comes to female murderers. I encourage you to check out the channel, Female Killers. Men seem to have a higher level of dignity, even if narcissistic, when it comes to throwing themselves in the gutter. The behavior I've seen from women is so vile, so disgraceful, it's actually shocking to me. No boundaries, no limits, and I do believe that we have to rewrite the stats on this. I believe there's always been more female narcs. I believe there is far more female narcs today. I do believe that they have been able to operate under a cloud of cover because people anticipate that men are the big evil bad guys, that women are just warmer and fuzzier. The other thing too, and we really got to look at this because this is a very real fact. Women are much more likely to come out regarding abuse. Men are not. And I do believe that there are far more men that have been victimized by female narcissists than we could ever imagine. And I do believe, and if you look at groups like MGTOW, listen to their stories, and there are, oh my God, there are tens of hundreds of thousands of them. Listen to their stories, and you will quickly realize that what they are describing is narcissistic women. Now, I think that this is how the information got skewed, because rather than men coming into this genre of narcissistic abuse, where there is an overwhelming number of women, Well, it was maybe uncomfortable for them, and I think many were more attracted to MGTOW. Now, we've got incredible men here at the channel, men who have shared their stories, shared their suffering with us, and helped to enlighten all of us, and given us a better perspective on how narcissism does affect men, certainly when it comes to child custody laws and things like that. And guys, for those of you who have stood up, shared your story with us, thank you. It has shown the most incredible level of bravery. But I do believe instinctively men are more drawn to groups like MGTOW, and I encourage you to check out some of the videos at one of the MGTOW sites. I think it will give you a much clearer perspective on how gravely impacted men are by this. Now, whether you're a man or a woman, a female narcissist can definitely infiltrate your life. If you're a heterosexual male, well, you could end up with a female narcissistic partner. If you are a gay woman, you're going to end up possibly with a narcissistic woman. If you are a woman looking for a friend, you run a very high risk of attracting a female narcissist into your life. They are very, very obvious in the workplace. They've infiltrated areas like education and medicine, social services, and I mean, they're everywhere. And probably the last 10 women I talked to that were terrorized in the workplace by a narcissist, it was a female. Another hard fact that we understand about narcissists is that their greatest fear, their most morbid, dreadful fear, is that of abandonment. And yes, I have said it many times, I believe it was the case. I do not believe it is the case any longer. I now have changed my mind about that. And the reason I have changed my mind is really what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing. This vast exposure is causing them to change gears. I think it's causing their hive mind collective to reprioritize. And abandonment really isn't the biggest glaring issue in their lives anymore. I believe it's exposure. How I understand the narcissist abandonment issue is this. Now, we enter into the relationship believing it's for life, but with this overwhelming fear of abandonment, the narcissist believes that they're going to be abandoned. So from day one in the relationship, and I mean from the first time they laid eyes on you and targeted you, they knew that they were going to take you hostage, extract supply, and dump you and discard you. Devalue, dump, discard. That's always been their MO. So they knew the relationship was going to end. It had to end because they could not live with this constant fear of abandonment. The abandonment was in front of them, so they charge at it. They dump you, discard you. Now abandonment is no longer an issue and the threat is behind them. Well, I see the same thing happening with exposure. They don't even seem to be trying to hide what they are anymore. Certainly willing to just rip off their own mask and expose themselves very early. And I believe it's the exact same premise as the abandonment issue that was once in the forefront for them. I believe that has been replaced with the risk of exposure. I believe they see the potential for exposure and they just charge at it in an attempt to get the exposure behind them and thus expose themselves. I'm hearing this over and over again. I have personally experienced this on several occasions very, very recently. And both times with female narcissists, both times unprovoked, completely exposed themselves and did it very, very quickly. And I do believe it's the exact same principle as the abandonment issue. It's in front of them, they got to get it behind them. The exposure is a high risk, a high probability, so they just charge at it, rip their own mask off, expose themselves, and now it's behind them. And quickly just move on to the next victim. They don't seem to even care as much about the exposure and seem much more willing to fly in, wreak havoc, expose themselves, and just blow on to the next victim. I think something else that used to be true but is no longer true is the fact that narcissists had to be in your inner circle to be able to harm you, to be able to sabotage you, to be able to launch a smear campaign against you. All of us experienced all of these horrible aspects of narcissistic abuse from someone that was truly in our most intimate inner circle, be it a mother or a parent, a sibling, a sister, a best friend, someone really close to us, a lover, a husband, a wife, someone that was in our inner circle. And that's really changed too. I'm talking to so many people that are being viciously attacked by narcissists, people they don't even know, people they really have no intentions of getting to know, who actually have not tried to get in their inner circle. Like they're just hanging on the fringes, attacking from a distance, which is pretty perplexing for a lot of people. And as someone, that gets smear campaigned by people I've never spoken to, in my life or spoke to briefly, it's a pretty bizarre anomaly, but it is growing and growing, and I think we're going to see a whole lot more of this. The fact that they're not able to get in as easily because of our education, because of our knowledge bank, we're much more guarded, I think has led them to think, well, what the hell, I'll attack from the outside. They really aren't trying as hard as they used to get in our inner circle. And this, of course, is making these bizarre attacks from these fringe element narcissists even more confusing, more perplexing. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what is going on here? I don't even know this person. It's outrageous, but this is a major change in narcissistic abuse. I know we've all been guarded about letting someone in our personal life, letting them in our homes, in our hearts, in our minds, but I'm telling you, what I'm seeing is creatures that don't even want to get in. They just want to attack, and they'll do it from a distance. I think we're also seeing this vast shift in narcissism within the global political systems. Alleged leaders. Now, there was a day, of course, a time when we called leaders elected public servants. How the verbiage shifted to leaders is a bit perplexing, but that is what they call themselves these days. I mean, if you look at Macron in France, or May in the UK, or Merkel in Germany, or Trudeau in Canada, they are all affected by the same hive mind. And they really don't care that they're exposing themselves as true enemies of the people that they're supposed to be representing. We're seeing this absolutely everywhere. Even something as simple as mandating vaccines. Like, people can't make this decision for themselves. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. And we are definitely seeing very, very dark times falling upon humanity. It's looking like a freaking Orwellian nightmare out there. And I think anyone who's awake, anyone who's been unveiled can see it. But I do believe that this can be corrected. I truly believe that. I believe that humanity can be trusted to join together and do the right thing. I absolutely believe that. And I believe that the narcissists are going to become less and less of an issue. They just appear to be so frenzied, so panicked, so desperate. Somebody said something to me one day on the phone, and they said, and, it really kind of opened my eyes. It was something very simple. They said, my understanding of demons is that they've got a quota. Demons aren't the higher evil. They have an evil master that they have to answer to. And this friend of mine believed they had a quota. And because they are more detectable, they are more easily spotted, I believe they're getting worked up and frenzied, and they're just lashing out in the craziest ways, doing and saying the most inept things, and they are appearing vile and odious very, very quickly when you meet them. So you really don't have to become invested or, get yourself all dirtied up. You can just kind of stand back, and they will expose themselves very quickly. But I do believe the state of narcissism, as we've understood it, is changing, and I believe it's changing very quickly, and I think we're going to see a lot more changes. If you yourself have had a personal experience with narcissism that kind of breaks the norm, please leave it in the comments below so we can start to establish some new patterns, and we can always stay one step ahead of these creeps. Guys, I love you lots. I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV, and I hope you are having a great narc-free day. Keep your eyes open. These things are everywhere.